Before I move on, let me remind you of something. The man who preached this message in Acts fell into this category. Paul fell into this category. Paul hated the gospel. He despised the church. His former full-time job was hunting down Christians and throwing them in jail. He wasn't just a fish. Paul was a great white shark. He wouldn't take the bait. He would devour the fishermen, and then he met Jesus. And he went from being a fish to a follower to a fisherman. And keep in mind that only a minority of people will out and out reject the gospel. But folks, don't give up on them. Don't give up on anyone. And understand this. Number two, most people will respect the gospel. Most people will respect the gospel. Notice the response of the second group. Look at verse 32 again. But others said, we want to hear you again on this subject. We want to hear you again. That response was totally neutral. They were not ready to receive the gospel or respond to the gospel, but they were curious about the gospel. Tell me more. Tell me more. They wanted to know more. They wanted more information. These are the people with no clear signs of being interested, yet perhaps they may be open, more receptive to hearing more. And right in the middle when it comes to the gospel. They're not resistant to the gospel, but they're not really interested in the gospel. I'm reminded of a man who was taking a survey on a street corner in New York City. And he stopped a man and said, "Sir, do you know what the two biggest problems in America are?" And the man said, "I don't know, and I don't care." And the surveyor said, "Bingo, you got both of them. Ignorance and apathy." This group's not interested in the gospel, but they're not offended by the gospel either. These people represent the largest segment of the unchurched in America. This category represents 67 million people. These people are not resistant to the gospel. They respect the gospel. They respect you as Christians. The majority of them would come to church if someone just invited them. Most of them believe in heaven. Some of them believe in hell. They're all concerned about where they're going to spend eternity. That's where most people are. Most people are right in the middle. Most people respect the gospel, which should give us great encouragement to get out and fish. But I want you to see a third point, and that is many people will respond to the gospel. Many people will respond to the gospel. Look at verse 34. Some of the people became followers of Paul and believed. It's pretty obvious that this group would include those receptive to the gospel, those receptive to the church. They're not only receptive to the gospel, but they're very, 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 very close to becoming a Christ follower. Very close. These are the people who are getting closer by the day to receiving Christ. They're simply waiting on fishermen to come and fish. These people would come to church if someone would just invite them. Let me put it to you another way. There are 60 million people in the United States alone who are willing and desiring to talk to someone about Christ. They're this close to accepting Christ. this close to becoming a part of a family, a church family, the family of God, this close. They're willing and desiring that commitment to Christ. Listen to me. 2 out of 3 people who never go to church are not only ready to come to church, but they're ready to come to Christ. And sadly, many churches and many Christians go for years without bringing a single soul to Christ. When was the last time you led someone to Christ? When was the last time I led someone to Christ? Church, listen to me. There is a right place to fish and there is a wrong place to fish. There's a right place to fish. You must leave the fishing lodge, this church building. You got to leave the fishing lodge and go out those doors. The fish are ready to bite. That's where the fish are. In your neighborhood, in your workplace, in your school, down the street, next door. That's where the fish are. It's easy to look at our secular culture and our secular county and our secular city and think that there are very few fish out there waiting to bite. Well, Pastor Doug, there's not any fish out there. Everybody I work with is Christian. Everybody I go to school with is Christian. Everybody in my neighborhood's a Christian. There's no fish out there. Well, that's simply not true. As I said last week, nearly 90, you heard me right, 90% of our community is unchurched. Only 10%. There's some great white sharks out there, and I know there's some barracuda out there, and yes, there's even some jellyfish out there. But I beg you, don't let the fish that won't bite keep you from fishing for the fish that will bite. Every fish needs the chance to catch the bait. Every fish needs the chance to bite the bait of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Every fish needs to hear about the touch of Jesus. He touched me. If Jesus has touched you, tell other people. Share with other people. Share with the fish in our community about that loving touch. We're in the fishing business. Jesus needs some fishing buddies. And there's a lot of fish ready to bite. So my friends, let's go fish. Let's go fish. Let's pray together.